So we've learned a bit about our perspective of the player and what they can see and experience. Now we've added our vehicle and we've also added obstacles. And now what we need to do is we need to reposition our camera in our scene so that way we can actually get a better view of what is happening behind our vehicle. So what we're going to do is, instead of using our transform component in our inspector on the right side, we are going to make sure the camera is on the top left is selected, and so you can see all of the different tools that we have here in the toolbar on the very top left. So for now, we're going to make sure that we have a move tool selected. Our move tool is selected now. It is the second one from the left, and our these 4 arrows will pop up in different directions on the camera. Now remember, you have to press Ctrl and hold, and then left click on the red arrow, and now you guys can see that our camera is moving on the x-axis, and I wanted to get it to around 0, and that's it. Now I'm going to keep my mouse cursor in our scene view, and I'm going to press focus on our camera, and by doing that you can just press shift and then F. So I can shift the perspective again back into our camera. Now I'm going to do the same thing with our blue arrow, so I can move our camera behind our vehicle. So if I left click and press hold on our control key, I can move our camera back somewhere to around behind the vehicle would be good. Let's just say over there somewhere, and then I'm going to click on this other arrow, the last arrow that we have pointing towards the left, and I'm going to left click and drag it so that we put it somewhere around behind the vehicle. This arrow will be green in color, and we need to put it a little above the vehicle itself. Alright, so that would be good. Now I'm going to press F again to reposition it so we have a clear view of our camera in our scene view. And then now you guys can see the camera according to our preview, and it is just straight off the road, and that's not what we want. We need it to look at the vehicle. So that's not a helpful perspective at all. So we're going to reposition this camera this time, but we're going to use the rotate tool, and that is going to be right next to our move tool right here in our toolbar on the top left. So just go ahead and select it, and now you guys can see that there's like this huge sphere, this clear sphere that will emerge around our camera. And you guys can also see that there are like these lines on this sphere so that we can rotate on each axis, the X, the Y, and the Z. But these lines are actually well aligned to all of the different axes that we were playing with before, the X, Y, and Z. Now to make it a little bit easier for us, we're actually going to, on the top left of our scene view, you guys can see this handle little gizmo thing. We're going to just press on this green arrow on the top, and that'll just shift us to our Y, like a Y axis perspective. It's also like a top-down view, so you guys can also see it just changes the perspective to maybe a top-down view from what we would see on the Y axis. And so I'm going to reposition back to over the camera, right over the camera, and now I can very clearly see this green line, and which will actually rotate our camera on our y-axis. In this case, so if I click on the green line, I can rotate our camera by dragging it, and in our perspective, you guys can see that the camera is rotating. So just rotate it until the truck is in the middle of the perspective and the road is just straight up ahead. and that would be around there. And maybe I'll clean this a bit later, not now. So that'll be a good thing to do, just right behind the vehicle to get a better perspective on our car or our truck. You can see it's not entirely in frame here in our perspective, so I'm gonna change back to our different view by pressing this down arrow, and this will change our perspective. It'll be right behind our it'll be this z-axis. I'm pretty sure this is the z-axis, so I'm going to change that back to the z-axis, and now you guys can see it's like a side view now of our vehicle. So now we can perfectly see this blue line on our sphere, on our around the camera. So just go ahead, rotate this blue line, and until you see the car is perfectly visible, the entire truck is perfectly visible, and that would be perfect. Now, in terms of other tools that you can use to make it easier, so on the top left here we have a different tool, and it's all the way on the left. It's like a hand tool. It's our hand tool. It's called a hand tool. So in fact, if I select our hand tool and left click and drag around our scene view, it will like pan our scene view, and you can see that it's just, you guys can see the z-axis while moving. And of course, the move tool is just moving a selected object on each axis. Next tool would be the rotate tool, of course, and the rotate tool rotates an object. And the next one is, now the next tool is actually our scale tool with an X and with arrows on each side. So it is our scale tool, in which case now we have the camera selected, and because we cannot scale our camera, and this won't be possible. But if we are selecting our vehicle, for example, and we want to scale our vehicle to a different size, we can easily do that. Now the next one, the second last one, is a rect tool. So this actually combines the move, rotate, and the scale tool all in one. So it's like a 3-in-1. However, this will only be useful for 2D. If you guys like, you can use it also in 3D. It can be helpful, but mostly useful in 2D. Or now, in fact, if I select if I select our vehicle here, you guys can see, let's just get a better view. There's this kind of like a rectangular outline around our vehicle, so it's useful in 2D. In this case, we have a 3D world, so that doesn't really help. If we select the last tool, the last and final tool on our toolbar, all the way on the right side, this actually combines our move, rotate, and scale tool. It's also a 3-in-1, and this is very helpful in 3D. And you guys can actually see all of them. All of the components are added onto our vehicle. The arrows, the sphere with the lines, each line on each axis. You have these movement tools. If you click on this gray box, you guys can scale the vehicle up and down, which changes the size. And of course, if I press Ctrl or Command Z, that'll undo that, so it's back to normal. It's normal size again. So you can actually use this tool to control all the different aspects, and it's useful. A little tip to actually scroll through. Useful tip to actually scroll through all of those. So if you actually just press the Q key on your keyboard, it'll select the hand tool. Alright, that's a little shortcut for a Q key. And if you press the W key on your keyboard without doing anything, it'll select the move tool. That's another different shortcut key that will be helpful. Now if you select the E key, that'll be our rotate. If we use the R key, that'll be our scale. And if we press the T key, that will be our rect tool. And if we press the last key, which is the Y key, it'll select the 3D space tool, which is of course our size, our scale, and our move and our rotate tool all in one. So that's all of our tools that we have in our 3D space. And then one last thing that we can do is just to see and make sure that our main camera is set up properly. Even though we can see it in our camera view, we'll just go ahead and play the game. We'll just press on this play button on the top, and then you have the perspective of the game view. It just shifts from a side view to behind the vehicle, and this is known as a game view. You guys can see on the top here we have the scene view and the game view, and of course the asset store, and we just shift back to the game view, and that's it. Alright, that was a short tutorial on moving the camera behind the vehicle and also showing you guys the different tools in the toolbar, which will be very helpful in the future. Please like and subscribe to this channel and click that notification bell, and I will see you guys very soon in the next Yuaw Tech video. Bye!